What's going on, guys? This is Matt, and today's video is going to be kind of a follow-up video to a video I did about a year ago, which is the $400 new part gaming PC for 2016. Now, that video was great and all, and the parts in it were some of the best price to performance parts available at the time, but the PC hardware market has changed a lot in the past year, so this is going to be what I recommend in 2017 for a $400 gaming PC. So actually, one thing before I get into the video is I want to talk about what kind of performance you should expect with this build. So in GTA 5 at very high settings, you can expect to get a 60 FPS average with frame rates dropping into the low 50s only during the most intense scenarios, like when driving very fast or during explosions. In CSGO at high settings, you can expect to average around 130 FPS, with it dropping as low as 110 FPS at its worst. Finally, in Overwatch at 1080p max settings, the system will be able to produce a locked 60 FPS. So now you know how this PC will perform, so let's go ahead and talk about the parts. Starting with the CPU, I went with what is honestly the only really good option available for budget gaming PCs right now, which is the Intel Pentium G4560. This is a dual-core CPU, but it does have hyper-threading, which makes a big difference in games. Though the G4400 and AMD 860K last year were great options, ever since Intel released the G4560 at an MSRP of only $65, it really doesn't make much sense to choose anything else if you're on a tight budget. And not only does the CPU perform really well for the money, it also gets you into Intel's newest Kaby Lake platform, which supports DDR4 as well as gives you a really good upgrade path to an i5 or i7 in the future if you want to go down that route. This CPU has 2 cores, 4 threads, 3 MB of cache, and has a locked frequency of 3.5 GHz, which is plenty fast for modern games. We'll be cooling this CPU with the included Intel heatsink, which while not amazing is free and can be easily upgraded in the future to something like a Cooler Master Hyper T4 for quieter operation. In terms of motherboards, this is where things get a little bit weird. For this parts list, I decided to go with an ASRock Micro ATX B250 board, which is currently $60 up front and includes a $5 mail-in rebate. This board provides good value for the money and supports all of our hardware, but you do have the opportunity to save $15 or $20 by going with an H110 chipset motherboard. The only problem is, unless the H110 board comes with the latest BIOS, you'll have to update to the latest BIOS using a Skylake CPU, which for those of you that have access to a Skylake CPU, this may be a good option, but for the rest of you who may be unsure of what BIOS version the board has, then I would recommend just sticking with the B250 board I recommended, as it's guaranteed to work out of the box with all of the hardware I've selected. Moving on to RAM, this platform uses DDR4 RAM, which is ridiculously expensive right now. The cheaper 8GB sticks are hovering around the $50 price point, which is around what I paid last year for 16GB of DDR4. So your best bet is to buy the cheapest 8GB stick of DDR4 you can find, as the speed it's running at and the way it looks isn't going to have any noticeable effect on gaming performance. Right now you can get an 8GB stick of Team Elite Plus DDR4 RAM at 2400 MHz for $52 shipped, which is a decent value for where the market is right now, and gives you the option to upgrade to 16GB in the future, as there will be an extra RAM slot available on the motherboard. For storage, I went with a 1TB Toshiba hard drive for $45. It's 7200 RPM and has plenty of space for your OS, programs, and a pretty sizable game collection. Though this drive is a good value right now, I would recommend just looking for the cheapest 1TB hard drive from a reputable manufacturer like Western Digital, Seagate, or Toshiba. Just make sure the drive is new and 7200 RPM. Powering the system is going to be a 430 watt EVGA power supply. For $30 with free shipping from Amazon, this power supply is 80+ certified and rated to supply double the estimated power consumption of the system, which means you have room to upgrade your system in the future without worrying about changing your power supply. This unit is non-modular and uses some ketchup and mustard cables, but it's a unit I've used in multiple builds and never had a problem with it. For the case, I went with the Xeon Exxon 310 Micro ATX case, which is consistently just over $20 on Amazon, which is great as it'll house all of our components just fine and doesn't break the bank. At any given time, there's a slew of cases for around $20, so when you're going to purchase your parts, just pick one that fits your aesthetic taste as well as fits in your budget. Finally, let's talk about the GPU now. The reason I'm talking about the GPU last is because it should be one of the last things budgeted out in your build, and this is because whatever you have left in your budget should go towards the best GPU that's currently available at your given price. For me, it was a GTX 1050 Ti from EVGA, which from the performance I talked about at the beginning of the video, you can see it performs really well. You may be able to squeeze in an RX 470 or 570 or even an RX 480 or 580, which depending on your budget and the current sales at the time of viewing may be an option which will yield you even more performance, but even if you just stick with the GTX 1050 Ti, the performance you'll get is still really good at 1080p for a few years to come. Overall, for $400, you're getting a really good 1080p gaming PC that vastly outperforms a similarly priced PC from last year. So yeah, those are all the parts to the updated $400 gaming PC for 2017. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and make sure to leave any questions in the comment section down below and I'll try to answer as many of them as I can. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing as I have a lot of great PC and technology related videos coming out in the near future. And as always, this is Matt from Tech by Matt, signing out.